1940, a German officer sent a classified letter. It was addressed to a professor. The subject of that letter was not a rifle. It was not a tank. It was Thor's hammer. You read that right. The Nazis were hunting a Norse god's hammer, not as a myth, as a machine. Heinrich Himmler believed it was real. He believed ancient Germans had built an electrical weapon, and that the legend of Mjolnir was simply the memory of that weapon, passed down through centuries of storytelling. So he ordered his own private science division to go find it, rebuild it, and use it. That division had a name, the Ahnenerbe. Most people have never heard it, but before Indiana Jones ever chased a golden idol across a movie screen, this organization was already doing it for real, with SS funding, with real expeditions, and, before the end, with a real body count. So here is the question I want you to sit with for the next several minutes. What happens when a modern, industrial superpower puts its full military weight behind a private belief in magic? By the end of this video, you will know exactly how far that belief went. You will know exactly where it ended. And you will know what, to this day, has never been found. This is not a story pulled from a screenplay. Every name, every date, and every location in this video is drawn from surviving records, post-war trial testimony, and documents historians have spent decades piecing back together. But before I tell you what they actually found buried in the Himalayan mountains, I need 30 seconds from you first. Quick thing before we go deeper. Tell me where you are watching this from. Drop your city below. I read every single comment every time. Today's goal is small, just 50 likes. If we hit that number, it tells me to go even deeper on stories like this one. New here and you like true historical mysteries, told with real sources behind every claim? Hit subscribe. This channel goes to the dark corners of real history, not fiction. Now let's go back to where this actually began. A quiet office in Berlin in the summer of 1935. It is July of 1935. Germany is rebuilding its military in secret, in direct violation of the Treaty of Versailles. Adolf Hitler has been chancellor for 2 years, and in a modest office in Berlin, 3 men sit down and sign the papers for a brand new research group. Their names were Heinrich Himmler, Hermann Wirth, and Richard Walther-Darré. The organization they created was called the Ahnenerbe. Translated from German, the word means ancestral heritage. On paper, its mission sounded almost boring. It would study old German culture, language, folklore, archaeology. That was the cover story. The real story took shape underneath it, one expedition at a time. A quick note before we go further. Where a detail is confirmed by multiple independent sources, this video treats it as documented fact. Where a detail comes from a single diary, a single letter, or disputed post-war testimony, it will be framed exactly that way, as a reported account rather than settled history. In 1939, the Ahnenerbe stopped pretending to be a simple cultural society. It was formally folded directly into the SS command structure. Himmler already had a personal fascination with reincarnation, ancient Germanic mysticism, and the occult more broadly. Now, for the first time, he had an entire staff department built to chase it, with real professors, real funding, and expeditions planned across 3 separate continents. One man shaped Himmler's private thinking more than almost anyone else in this entire story. His name was Karl Maria Willigut. Soldiers reportedly called him strange behind his back. Himmler called him something closer to a prophet. Willigut had actually spent time inside a mental institution before ever joining the SS. That history did not stop his rise. If anything, it seemed to give his claims more mystique inside Himmler's inner circle. Willigut claimed he could channel the memories of ancient Germanic ancestors through deep trance states. Not simply read old text about them, channel them directly, as though tuning a radio to a signal broadcasting from centuries in the past. Himmler believed him completely. According to historical accounts, Himmler used Willigut's trance visions to help select and personally design an actual physical location, Wewelsburg Castle, located in Westphalia, Germany. This was not a metaphor, and it was not a private hobby. This involved real state money, real architects, and a genuine Renaissance-era castle rebuilt from the ground up around one man's paranormal claims about the past. Inside Wewelsburg, the SS built a circular stone vault beneath one of the towers. It was designed to eventually hold the ashes of dead SS leaders, arranged in a shrine-like ring around a central flame. Above that vault sat a space historians now call the Obergruppenführer Hall, its stone floor engraved with a 12 sun wheel. Today, most people online call that symbol the Black Sun. You can still walk into that exact room. The castle is a public museum now, open to ordinary visitors, and the mosaic is still set into the floor exactly where the SS placed it. Williget also designed something much smaller, but arguably darker in meaning. The SS Totenkopf ring, the Death's Head ring. Every senior SS officer was issued one. Every single ring was individually numbered and tracked in official SS records. And, under the rules Himmler personally set, each ring was supposed to be returned to the vault at Wewelsburg the moment its owner died. Hold on to that ring detail. It becomes important again later, and what ultimately happened to those rings has never been fully explained by any historian. The other two founders deserve a moment too, because neither of them fits the image of a wild-eyed fanatic. Richard Walther Darré was the Reichsminister of Food and Agriculture, a technocrat obsessed with soil, bloodlines, and rural purity. Hermann Wirth was a respected linguist who genuinely believed ancient runes encoded a lost spiritual system predating recorded history. Two credentialed professionals, standing next to Himmler, signing papers to formalize a belief system most of their academic peers would have quietly laughed out of a lecture hall. Before the Ahnenerbe existed at all, there was an earlier group that planted its seeds. Historians trace its roots to the Thule Society, a post-World War I occult organization active in Germany. Thule mixed extreme nationalism, open anti-Semitism, and a belief in a lost Aryan homeland, one some members called Hyperborea, others called Atlantis. Several early Nazi party figures passed directly through Thule's meetings before the party itself was fully formed. The Ahnenerbes simply gave that older fringe belief system a proper budget, a professional letterhead, and, eventually, an SS uniform. But the castle was only the beginning of this story. The real hunt for proof was happening thousands of miles away, in mountains no German army had ever set foot in before. It is 1938. A team of 5 Germans lands in Tibet, funded and organized under the Ahnenerbe's authority. Officially, they are simply scientists on a research trip. A zoologist named Ernst Schaefer leads the team. Unofficially, according to the surviving records, this is very much an SS mission, built around one central theory, that Aryans were not simply German, and that Aryans were in fact survivors of a lost civilization, hidden for thousands of years in the Himalayan mountains after some ancient global catastrophe. Some Nazi occultists called that lost civilization Atlantis outright. The expedition's anthropologist was a man named Bruno Beger. According to his own diaries and later documented post-war testimony, Beger spent months measuring the skulls and physical features of local Tibetan villagers, 376 of them, by his own written count. He was searching for what he called Aryan traits, hidden somewhere inside the bone structure of ordinary people who had never once heard of Berlin, or Himmler, or the war building on the other side of the world. Beger's own writing describes the whole experience as a strange, uneasy mix. Real scientific methods sat side by side with real espionage. And underneath both of those layers sat the SS's occult racial theories, being field-tested in real time on real human subjects, high in some of the tallest mountains on Earth. Picture the scene itself for a moment. Thin, freezing air. Prayer flags snapping in the wind above a monastery. A German scientist with calipers measuring a stranger's skull by lamplight, while a translator explains, carefully, that this is simply research. The villagers had no idea they were standing inside someone else's mythology. The expedition's official photographs still survive. They show smiling German officers posing beside Tibetan monks, exchanging gifts, filming rituals for what was presented back home as a cultural documentary. None of the footage hinted at what the measurements were actually for. Meanwhile, back in Western Europe, a very different kind of expedition was already underway, aimed not at living people, but at a legend buried in stone. His name was Otto Rahn, a young medievalist and SS officer obsessed with one single object, the Holy Grail. Rahn did not believe the Grail was a Christian relic at all. He believed it was an older pagan stone of power, hidden away by the Cathars, a persecuted religious sect wiped out centuries earlier in a brutal crusade across southern France. Rahn spent years crawling through cave systems near Montségur, France, the site of the Cathars' final stand, searching those cold stone tunnels for physical proof his theory was real. cold limestone underfoot, a single lantern, water dripping somewhere in the dark ahead of him, always just out of sight. He was not chasing treasure for its own sake. He believed he was one torchlit chamber away from rewriting the entire spiritual history of Europe. He later became the direct historical inspiration for a famous fictional archaeologist you have almost certainly seen on a movie screen. The whip and the leather jacket came later, from Hollywood. The obsessive cave crawling for a lost relic came from Rahn first, and it was never fiction for him. He reportedly told friends, in his own words, that a man has to eat and that he did not know what else he was supposed to do, other than turn Himmler down and lose everything. That is not the voice of a fanatic chasing glory. That is the voice of a man trapped inside something far bigger than himself, quietly too afraid to say no out loud. In March of 1939, Otto Rahn was found frozen to death on a mountainside in Tyrol, Austria. Officially, his death was ruled a suicide, but other theories have circulated for decades. Some historians believe he may have been assassinated because he had ultimately failed to find the Grail, because his loyalty to the regime was privately in question, and because his homosexuality had reportedly been discovered by SS officials watching him closely. To this day, exactly what happened alone on that mountain has never been definitively confirmed by any surviving record. But Tibet and Rahn's caves were not the strangest place the Ahnenerbe ever sent its people. There was one more location, and it is one that most documentaries about this topic never even mention. Quick pause here. What do you think was really driving all of this? Genuine personal belief in the occult? A cold, calculated excuse dressed up to justify conquest? Or something closer to both, tangled together in the same men, at the same time? Comment your answer below right now, and I will pin the most interesting ones. Let's get back to the actual records, because what comes next is even stranger than anything in Tibet, and it involves a frozen continent almost nobody connects to this story at all. In 1938, a German ship left port, heading south toward Antarctica. Officially, this was called the Neuschwabenland Expedition, a naval mission organized to secure new whaling routes for Germany's economy. That specific part is documented, verifiable fact, confirmed by multiple independent sources. Back in Germany, the Ahnenerbe's most dangerous work of all was not happening inside a laboratory or on a frozen mountainside. It was happening quietly on paper, buried inside formal archaeological reports. Here is the part almost nobody covering this topic actually talks about. The Ahnenerbe was never simply a hobby department for a few eccentric men who liked old stories and older legends. Its official research was directly used as legal justification for military invasion. If Nazi archaeologists could formally claim that ancient Aryans had once ruled a specific region, whether in parts of Eastern Europe or parts of Scandinavia, that single claim instantly became a usable political tool. A propaganda weapon, dressed up carefully as legitimate academic history, used to argue that Germany was simply reclaiming its own ancient land, not conquering someone else's. This is exactly where the story stops feeling merely strange and starts feeling genuinely dangerous. The man who ran daily operations for the entire Ahnenerbe was named Wolfram Sievers. He held the formal title of General Secretary. For years, Sievers personally oversaw the systematic looting of artifacts across unoccupied Europe. Books, runic stones, religious relics. All of it stripped from museums, from churches, and from private homes, then carefully shipped back to Germany under his direct supervision. Sievers is the same man who personally commissioned a collection of human skeletons, specifically Jewish skeletons, gathered under orders for what the Ahnenerbe formally called scientific research. This was no longer myth hunting in any sense of the word. This was murder, wrapped carefully in academic language and official paperwork. At the post-war Nuremberg doctor's trial, this entire history came out in painful detail. Witnesses described how an organization that began by chasing ancient legends had, within only a few short years, become directly complicit in human experimentation, including the freezing experiments carried out on prisoners at the Dachau concentration camp. Wolfram Sievers stood trial for all of it. He tried to hide behind his academic credentials, framing himself in court as a simple scholar who had merely followed orders from above. It did not work. He was convicted and executed in 1948. Here is the detail that should genuinely unsettle you most. The Allied tribunals focused almost entirely on the medical atrocities. The occult side of this story, the artifact hunting, the myth research, the sheer worldwide scale of the operation, was largely dismissed at the time as bizarre Nazi eccentricity. A significant amount of that history was quietly buried inside classified intelligence files, rather than ever being fully exposed in open court. One more detail belongs here, because it shows how deliberately this belief system was built to outlast the men who built it. The Black Sun mosaic at Wewelsburg was never given an official Nazi-era name in surviving records. The label came later, decades after the war, adopted first by post-war occult and neo-Nazi movements who found the symbol and built new mythology around it. In a strange way, the site kept generating myths long after the regime that built it was gone. Two related mysteries grew directly out of this same world, and both are worth knowing because they show how far this obsession reached beyond just one department. The first involves the Spear of Destiny. The lance legend claimed had pierced Christ's side on the cross. Hitler was personally obsessed with it, reportedly believing whoever possessed the spear held the power to control the fate of the world. The Nazis confiscated it from a Vienna museum in 1938, the same year German troops annexed Austria, and later moved it into an underground bunker in Nuremberg for safekeeping. American forces recovered it only hours before Hitler's own suicide in April of 1945, a detail that still gives the object an eerie, almost cinematic timing in the historical record. The second is far murkier and far more heavily disputed. Historians and researchers call it Die Glocke, German for the bell, a post-war legend describing an alleged secret Wunderwaffe project buried somewhere in occupied Poland. The claims attached to it are extraordinary. Anti-gravity propulsion, early time manipulation experiments, a mysterious substance nicknamed red mercury. Almost no verified primary documentation supports the wildest versions of this story. Mainstream historians treat it with heavy skepticism. But the legend persists precisely because the Ahnenerbe's genuine documented history of chasing impossible weapons makes the impossible feel just a little more plausible than it should. So which explanation is actually correct? Historians still argue about it, and no single theory covers every piece of evidence cleanly. The first theory says, pure propaganda. Under this view, nobody in the SS leadership truly believed in Thor's hammer or lost Atlantean bloodlines. The occult language was simply useful, a mythic justification dressed up to make invasion and racial policy sound like historical destiny rather than naked conquest. This theory explains the Lebensraum land claims well. It struggles to explain why Himmler kept funding Williget's trances long after they stopped producing anything politically useful. The second theory says genuine belief. Under this view, Himmler and Williget were true believers, full stop. And the propaganda value was simply a convenient side effect of something they already privately accepted as real. Himmler's personal letters, including the one about Thor's hammer, support this reading strongly. This theory struggles to explain why other senior Nazi officials privately mocked the Ahnenerbe as Himmler's expensive hobby. According to several post-war accounts, the third theory says institutional cover. Under this view, the Ahnenerbe's academic branding gave cover for something far more practical: looting, intelligence gathering, and, eventually, human experimentation, all shielded behind the respectable language of research. This theory explains Siever's skeleton collection disturbingly well. It struggles to explain why so much SS money went toward things with zero practical military value, like proving a Norse hammer once existed. Which means one enormous question was never fully answered in any public courtroom, and it is the exact question that still quietly haunts serious historians today. Stay with me here, because what ultimately happened to the Ahnenerbe's most valuable secrets in the final days of the war is a mystery that has never been fully solved by anyone. If this story has you thinking, hit that like button right now. It is early 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing rapidly. Allied forces are closing in from every single direction at once. Inside the Ahnenerbe, Himmler and Sievers give a final order: destroy the files, burn the records, especially the ones detailing the organization's most esoteric projects and the war crimes tied directly to them. Only a small fraction of those documents actually survived the fires. Some fragments exist today inside the U.S. National Archives. Others sit quietly preserved in university collections, including at Ursinus College in the United States, still being carefully studied by historians decades after the war ended. But paper documents were not the only thing the Ahnenerbe tried desperately to erase in those final weeks. Remember those SS Death's Head rings, the ones Wewelsburg personally designed, meant to be returned to the vault beneath Wewelsburg the moment their owner died? To this day, that entire cache of rings has never been recovered. Thousands of them, by some historical estimates, still sitting somewhere beneath a German mountain, exactly where those men left them. That detail is not internet folklore. That is a documented order, given by a documented man, with a documented outcome that genuinely remains unresolved to this very day. Now connect this directly back to where we started tonight. Remember Himmler's 1940 letter, the one formally ordering his own scientists to locate Thor's hammer, treating a Norse legend as a real, functioning ancient electrical weapon? Historians like Erich Kurlander, who wrote extensively about this exact subject in his widely cited book on Nazi occultism, point to that specific letter as some of the clearest surviving evidence that this was never merely theater for public consumption. According to the documented record, Himmler was not performing belief for propaganda purposes. He actually believed it, privately and completely. The Ahnenerbe never found real magic. It never located a working weapon pulled from an ancient myth. What it found instead was something almost more disturbing to sit with. Proof that a modern, fully industrialized superpower will burn extraordinary amounts of money, manpower, and human lives chasing a single private belief, so long as the person in charge is convinced enough that the belief is genuinely real. Wewelsburg Castle still stands today, largely unchanged. You can personally walk into that same circular vault. You can stand directly on top of the Black Sun mosaic yourself on an ordinary afternoon, alongside other tourists. It is not a distant legend sealed behind glass somewhere. It is cold stone you can reach out and touch with your own hand. An unknown number of the artifacts the Ahnenerbe looted across occupied Europe, books, sacred relics, runic stones hidden away inside salt mines and remote alpine fortresses, were never recovered by the Allied Art Recovery Team's historians, now commonly called the Monuments Men. Those teams worked for years after the war ended, tracking down stolen paintings and sculptures hidden across Europe. But the Ahnenerbe's specific hoard of esoteric material was scattered, disguised, and in some cases deliberately mislabeled, which made it far easier to lose in the post-war chaos than a famous painting with an obvious owner. Which means, somewhere out there right now, physical pieces of this exact story are still quietly missing. Not lost to time in some vague, poetic sense. Missing in the literal, physical, this object exists somewhere sense. And here is the final, quietest twist in the entire story. Sievers was executed. But he was one of the few who faced any real consequence at all. Many of the historians, linguists, and archaeologists who staffed the Ahnenerbe were never tried for anything. Because their work looked like ordinary academic scholarship on paper, they successfully rebranded themselves after the war as apolitical scholars. Men who claimed they had simply been swept into the SS against their better judgment. According to multiple historical accounts, several of them kept respected university positions well into the 1970s, teaching students who likely had no idea what their professor had once measured, and why. And that one missing piece is exactly what separates the story from every other Nazi history documentary you have ever watched before. Here is the real question this entire story leaves behind. It is not really about whether Thor's hammer was ever physically real. It was not. The real question is this: how many major decisions across how many governments throughout history have been quietly shaped by one powerful person's private belief, not by evidence, not by careful science, but by something much closer to raw faith? Wewelsburg's private trances shaped the design of an actual castle. Himmler's personal belief in an old myth-shaped real SS resources during an active, brutal world war. That fact alone should genuinely bother you more than any hammer or any hidden ancient weapon ever could. It is easy to watch this story and file it away as a uniquely Nazi kind of madness, something safely locked in the past behind museum glass in Westphalia. It is much harder and much more honest to ask a colder version of the same question. Belief does not need a swastika attached to it to move real money, real institutions, and real human lives. The Ahnenerbe is simply the most well-documented, most extreme case history has ever handed us. The men who once ran the Ahnenerbe are long gone now. The castle they built is a quiet museum today, open to ordinary tourists on an ordinary afternoon. But somewhere underneath a German mountain, a cache of rings still waits, sitting exactly where it was deliberately left, in the final chaotic days of a war that formally ended 8 decades ago. Now I genuinely want to hear from you directly. Which single part of this story disturbs you most? Willigut's private trances, the skull measurements taken in Tibet, or the rings still sealed somewhere beneath that mountain? Drop your answer below. I read every single one, personally. We set a simple goal of 10 likes today. If we already crossed that number, that is your support directly driving this channel forward. If we have not quite reached it yet, this is your exact moment to help. Next time we go even deeper into this same dark territory, a different regime, a different continent entirely, and a hidden weapons program that stayed fully classified for 60 long years before anyone even publicly admitted it ever existed at all. If tonight is the first time you have heard the name Ahnenerbe, you are not alone. Most people never learn this history in school, and most Nazi documentaries skip straight past it, straight to the tanks and the battlefields, because the occult angle sounds too strange to take seriously. It happened anyway. Stone, paper, and buried metal are still sitting exactly where the record says they are. Subscribe now so you do not miss it. I will see you in the dark.